Welcome, Spartans, to Halo TV Plus, part of Evolved, your home for Halo. I am your host, Oran, and on Halo TV Plus, my guest and I recap Halo's original television show, Halo the Series, and we discuss its contents and unique canon within the Silver Timeline. Joining me tonight for Episode 3 of Season 2, Visegrad, is Steve. Welcome back to the show, Steve.
Hey, I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, man. So you helped us kick off this kind of Season 2 preview episodes, and now you're here with us doing one of the episodes.
Oh yeah, for sure. I didn't get to do episodes the first time around. I don't think I was here for the first season, so I'm super hyped for this one.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's really good. I enjoy, maybe a little selfishly, but it's just kind of how the show's structured. Just talking to a different person each week and kind of getting their take as the season progresses. And yeah, this is nice. We're 1 week after our double episode premiere, and I can feel the creep now of just like, I can't wait till next week's episode to see more and all this kind of stuff. We got a little spoiled with our double feature last week.
Yeah, it was definitely a heavy hit right out of the gate. It was a long stretch to get here, but it was nice. I was happy to get to it once. Yeah,
it'll be, and since it's only 8 episodes, I'm hoping it kind of just keeps moving, especially with episode 4. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
It's gonna go so fast.
It is gonna go fast. I think once it picks up, it's gonna go. But this is episode 3, Visegrad. If you're a returning listener, then you know this, but if you're just now joining us, Halo TV Plus produces 2 podcast episodes to accompany each Halo the Series television episodes. This is the commentary episode where in a moment Steve and I will watch Visegrad and discuss the events as they unfold on screen. We encourage you to watch along with us. If you haven't watched the episode yet, we recommend that you watch it before listening and watching along, as we often spoil scenes while they happen and even before they happen. Tomorrow we will release our analysis episode that will dive into a little bit more detail, as well as some predictions for characters and scenes in this episode. Additionally, if you're new to the show, welcome. Halo TV Plus is part of Evolve that hosts a variety of other Halo-related podcasts like Podcast Evolved, HCS Pro Talk, Mission Debrief, Builds with Blocks, and Halo Book Club. You can learn more about each of those shows on our website, evolvedhalo.com. Evolved hosts another show called I Would Have Been Your Podcast, which is a Patreon-exclusive podcast for our subscribed patrons. If you're not a patron and want to learn more, you can head over to patreon.com/HaloEvolved. Patrons receive a variety of other exclusive rewards, such as early episodes, access to our original 18-song soundtrack, unique swag, and access to our private Discord channel, and more. Shout out to all of our current subscribers. Thank you guys so much for your continued support every single month and every single week. We're very pleased to give you guys the content that we're able to provide. I have a quick little announcement before we dive right in. Starting on Tuesday, February 20th to Tuesday, February 27th, Halo Infinite's ultimate reward will be Vanek's helmet for, I think, any of your Spartan cores, as well as his visor color, which you just earn by logging in. Kai and Riz, they've already had their helmets being featured as the ultimate reward for this current sort of like season cycle, or what are they calling it? Mission cycle?
Content cycle, I guess.
Content cycle. There's or operation cycle, I guess. And 343 has said that they are looking at ways for players to acquire old rewards, and they're looking at the Spartan Point system from Master Chief Collection, and so that might come into the game in the relatively near future or sometime in the not too distant future. So if you miss those helmets, that's probably an avenue that you would be able to not reacquire, but just acquire. And yeah, but you still have Vanek's, and I wanted to put that out there now so then people can kind of make plans to get that ultimate reward, because by the way we do our episode releases, it's kind of on the tail end of their reset. So yeah. Steve, do you want to take us away on what happened last week with the second episode, Sword? And listeners, I recommend getting the episode queued up, because we will start watching after this.
Yeah, so last week Or, well, last week we had both episodes, but on the second episode, we got a bunch of Dr. Halsey being held prisoner in some sort of hollow room, and we find out that it's Ackerson that's holding her. She's kind of being psychologically tortured by the Flash clone that comes in and helps serve her and like be friendly to her and keep her company. It's just a girl named Julia that's been playing backgammon with her. We have Riz dealing with her injury that she got at the end of the last season. Chief's trying to push her hard because he knows what's coming, and she's not looking too good. They're kind of doing this homage to the Ring the Bell from Fall of Reach, where they're dealing with a bit of an obstacle course and shooting at each other, and she's trying to climb up and hit this sort of beacon that's up in a rock face of sorts, and she almost makes it, and Chief sees her struggling. He can take a shot, but he decides not to because he wants to see her work for it, and she doesn't. So she's dealing with a bunch of issues from that. We get Quan again, of course. You know, we just can't seem to get away from that, but I get it. You know, things are looking better for Quan this season. She's dealing with being hunted down. She's some sort of indentured servant and is not having that life. She is not about it. I don't know what rules they have to deal with there, but she's like, you know what? I'm just not living this life anymore. Screw these guys. We get Ackerson and Kai talking about Chief behind his back. You know, there's still that question of Chief's stability, so to speak. We've got Ackerson pushing his propaganda, but also questioning it behind the scenes. He's trying to get Kai to turn Chief. Be like, hey, he's not doing too hot. Well, we should take him off the lines. But she's loyal to him. She doesn't throw him quite under the bus. We get Chief meeting with Perez, trying to get her to open up about what happened on Sanctuary because he knows she kept her mouth shut, and that's part of what's helping Ackerson push his propaganda. We know that at the end of the episode, the Covenant sent a small force. We're assuming it's a small force. That's where we got McKee returning, and they took, it was the large artifact that they took, right?
Well, I think it's a little ambiguous as to if they took it or not, but you would, I guess, imply that they did take it before they would then attack the planet. But yeah, I mean, they've somehow found the location of the large one at the bottom of Sword Base, and that kind of is the final stinger that McKee is looking at the larger artifact.
Yeah, McKee's there with one elite, and they're obviously not fighting anybody actively. There's nobody putting up any sort of resistance, and they're like, oh, hey, the artifact. So we can probably safely assume they're in possession of it, but
yeah,
we haven't seen them get the smaller one. We know the smaller one is at FleetCom, where Ackerson is asking Cortana the odds of something, and she says it was 97 point something %. Did you get the point?
It's in a previous document, I'm sure, but yeah, it's okay. Basically 97 points.
It was like 98%. It may as well, for all argument's sake, it was 98%.
Yeah, that outcome would happen soon, which I think we assume is the Covenant finding Reach.
And I think that's pretty much all of the threads we had hanging that are dangling into this week's episode.
Yeah, so we didn't see any new bits from Soren. We still have yet to see Miranda Keyes going into episode 3. And it's just kind of what's going on. And then also the Chief, I didn't put this in the notes, but Chief also is trying to get in touch with Cobalt team to see what they're doing, and notices that they went to a relay, the Visegrad relay on Reach, and did not leave the planet. And they don't know where they are. They're listed as standby, and so he takes it upon himself to lead Silver Team to go investigate because he just has a bad feeling about it all. And that's where the episode ends, and where episode 3 picks up pretty quickly.
And I actually took a poll in our community on our Twitter X page asking, going into this next episode, do we think Cobalt's going to be alive or dead when we next encounter them? And we got like 26 results of people tapping in with their opinion, and it was 35-65 alive or dead. So most people thought they're going to turn up dead at some point, but it wasn't a landslide. So let's keep that in mind going into this episode.
Yeah. So, all right, well, we'll go ahead and get started and watch the episode. I have mine queued up here. I can then count us down if you're ready to go for it, Steve.
I'm all locked and loaded.
All right, listeners at home, prepare your play button. I will count us down and say play, and that's when you would play with us, and we'll sync it up as best as we can. Steve and I are not watching with commercials, so if you are a viewer that's subscribed to a commercial or ad-based service for Paramount Plus, then you'll have to pause our episode when the ads play on your screen. But without any further ado, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play. So we are starting with the recap. You just gave us our recap, but kind of generally speaking, how would you respond to this episode? Did you enjoy it? Did you leave wanting more? Did you think it was not great? Kind of where do you fall with the second episode, Sword?
I know there was a lot of dialogue that happened between the first and second episode. There was a lot of things that need to be set up for this season so that way they can throw a lot of action at us real fast. It's a TV show. It can't be constant action all the time. I get that. I'm pretty realistic about it. But the way they built up slowly in the second episode and then in those last 5 minutes, everything just got set up really fast, and it's like, okay, episode 3, shit's gonna happen.
Yeah, I kind of thought that it was a good balance between episode 2 and episode 1 of like, we got our action and then we got our setup. And I kind of was feeling that if they kind of kept doing that, so to speak, then it would be, relatively okay. They kind of flip-flop, a heavy episode and a lighter episode. And I think it ended on a pretty good cliffhanger, and I feel like they've really sold the okay, we're not trusting Chief. We're trying to gaslight Chief and not believe what he's doing, and Ackerson's the new man in charge. We have these other Spartans, and I feel like it has done the world building that I think it kind of needs to where now we can just kind of get to the meat and potatoes of the story. It's kind of how I felt with episode 2. I feel like it was a nice way to just kind of finish all right, now we're here, so to speak.
Yeah, from the end of 2 going into 3, we've pretty much grabbed all of our loose hanging subplots and side plot threads from the end of season 1, and we're bringing them into the fold. No one's going to magically just flip a switch and we're going to be running perfectly parallel to core canon, but they're obviously trying to walk it back to be more in line with it, and they slow rolled it, but it's working so far. We'll see how it keeps going.
Yeah, I think, I definitely agree. We'll kind of see how it goes. I think the setup, the first 2 episodes have really done a good job of being kind of core canon adjacent, whereas season 1 was definitely kind of really on its own in some regards. And even kind of going into this episode, since now we're starting to get into it with Silver Team here on the sort of outskirts of Visegrad, or the Visegrad relay, it's this is kind of nice that it's this is basically Noble Team going to investigate the relay going down and kind of going on, and so we're more core canon adjacent this go around. That I definitely think is a much stronger direction, because they're still able to change things that they need to change to make it unique and within its own timeline, but you're still closely adjacent to what fans and people who know of the franchise as core canon. So it's kind of appeasing both boxes. So I'd say the first 5 to 7 minutes of this episode, I was super excited, because it was this is kind of what we're getting into, and then that kind of quickly goes away, as we'll see in a little bit. But
yeah, at this point they can still tell the story that the longtime Halo fans know, while still changing up a bit of it to be surprising to us and still keep things making somewhat sense for newcomers.
Yeah, like I don't think we need like a noble team or anything because we have Cobalt team to a degree, but I mean Silver team could just kind of be noble team. Just, they're the ones doing the stuff because we know who they are.
I think a huge deciding factor in that also has to be the fact that we're dealing with 8-episode seasons.
Yes. Yeah, that much is, yeah. You just can't develop too many more. I mean, even with Cobalt team, like we got a little bit of glimpse of them from episode 1, and that's really all that we've gotten to them from like a character point of view. We do see them again later in this episode, and unfortunately they're not in a position for us to really learn more about them. But that's just kind of how the nature of it is. Like, this is a TV show about this one Spartan fire team, Silver team, and we follow them as they...
It's all still a Master Chief story.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, yeah, very much. So
I think maybe if it was like a 12 or 16 episode season of some sorts, they might have been able to do some sort of proper noble team parallel.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, there's just so much they can just go that, like, as soon, like, even they're even juggling multiple storylines right now between the Rebel, between Ackerson stuff and Silver Team and some of the other characters. Like, they have all these threads that they're trying to weave, and even that's a little, like, kind of bordering the line of unruly or kind of hard to follow. So, like, to introduce a whole nother Spartan company and to do stuff in tandem with that would just be a whole nother thing that they'd have to do. I think it just doesn't quite translate as well to just insert Silver Team into all of these other Spartan companies and then weave your story into all the different stories that you want to tell in the TV show.
Which up to this moment is kind of what we thought we were getting, right? I mean,
yeah, I definitely was like, now. Okay, yeah, I was all strapped and buckled in, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is what it's gonna be like. This is like kind of the end of the first mission of Halo Reach, Winter Contingency, and they're gonna find some group of elites, tampering with the system or whatever, and then that's just gonna erase the alarm. Like, I wasn't expecting like the fall of Reach to like start, but I was thinking this would be like a little engagement that was gonna happen, and then out of nowhere these random ass Marines just show up.
Yeah, we thought it was going to be the pebble that started the avalanche, but not quite.
No. Yeah, it's just like it completely. What's the word? What'd you say? Bait and switch.
Yeah, it was a bait and switch.
It just was like, oh, and we also get this kind of interesting cutting back and forth with Perez, which we don't really ever address until the very end of the episode, which I guess we'll talk about that then. But yeah, I literally was watching this. I was like, what the heck is going on? Who is this woman? Like,
right here, it was like, oh no, Nothing Burger. Why?
I was like, oh, she has priority orders from Fleet. Like, who are you, lady? Like, you're not wearing any sort of identify. Like, I learned later that she was an officer, which does have seniority over chief, but like, it just was so abrupt. I was like, what, really? What is going on?
I mean, at this point, if I see no identifying markings, I'm just assuming Oni, because that's pretty easy at this point, and we know Spartans are under Oni. Like, all right, somebody with no tags showing up and start bossing him around, they're obviously an Oni higher up.
Yeah, and later we learned that that's actually the case, because that character, I don't even know her name, Briggs maybe, she kind of knows a little bit more of what Ackerson knows, which is definitely being filtered through FleetCom to paint a narrative. So it's like, okay, yeah, she's just another minion, I guess. But yeah, this was so upsetting that like we learned nothing. Like, like what we learned later is that Cobalt team like got like injured or slaughtered, and there's just no like evidence of any of that. Like, they cleaned it all up. They literally wiped the place clean because there's no evidence of.
But
anything.
they left the plate of half-eaten.
They did leave the plate of hash browns and toast or whatever. Yeah, that was odd for sure. I immediately gave like a sigh of disappointment of like, oh, okay, this is how it's gonna be. Like we said, the first 2 episodes did such a nice job, we thought, and it's like, uh-oh, the 3rd episode is raising a different flag. I do like this plot thread though. So now we're with Ackerson and we are with his dad that we learn. He's helping him shave. His dad is suffering from dementia, I think, or maybe some type of Alzheimer's.
Little bit of senility. He's losing it a little bit. He gets the waves here and there.
And so this is a nice humanizing moment for Ackerson because he has feelings like the rest of us, and so
he's not a villain.
Yeah, he's not quote unquote a villain exactly. So he just has to gripe with, I guess, these difficult scenarios and things that he deals with whatever way he feels that is the right way to do it.
Like, he's not out to murder Chief and Silver Team. He's just trying to make them look bad because he's got his own agenda to push for his own, like, military power that he's trying to push. But he's still a human. He's still fighting for the humans. He still has humans he cares about. They're still trying to fight on the same side of the same war. Right.
Yeah, this is very much the, show that although he is in opposition of our heroes, he still has a side of him that makes him human. He still has some humanity in him. So this is I just really like this scene, and then there's a kind of a bookended scene towards the end of the episode that picks up after this. That's also nice. Because I don't remember ever reading about any of this in the books and all that. I think Ackerson was just more or less a random little character. So
this is that foreshadowing moment if you've been paying attention to Halsey and him in the last episode.
Yes, very much so. Or Cortana, you mean?
No. With Father X Ackerson, where's his sister?
Oh, yes, okay, yes. I didn't make that connection until he said her name. I was like, oh, Julia. That's very interesting. And when I first read or saw this, I just assumed maybe Ackerson has some personal, not PTSD, but just personal pain and anxiety he has to kind of confront. And he was just flash cloning Julia as like a way to see her again or experience time with her, and not really what is more of the reason that she exists as a flash clone.
Yeah, he has other motives for that.
Yeah, because I want to move to this scene because like I was watching this scene and I definitely was like in Chief's shoes. I was like, what are you talking about? I was upset with Keyes. I was like, how are you not listening? Like, are you in cahoots with Ackerson? And like Chief even says that, and I equally shared Chief's frustration in this scene, which I found kind of interesting.
Yeah, we do know Keyes is supposed to have Chief's back. We also know he'll go behind Chief's back when the chain of command calls for it. And we know he's got his hands tied by Oni.
Keyes is one to follow the chain of command. We saw that last season with Order 70, Article 72, is that what it was, to kill Quan? And so like he is complicit and has his own sort of like demons and things that he has to gripe with, but I just felt this was just like, really?
It was when, Chief went and told Keyes that he was remembering things and what did Halsey do to him? And Keyes was like, don't you worry, when the time comes, we'll confront them together. And then Keyes immediately went right behind Chief's back and was like, yo, he's starting to remember shit. What do we do? We got to shut this shit down fast.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, so Keyes is by no means perfect. But this just started to seem a bit too far. But I guess we later learn a little bit more that I think redeems Keyes a bit. But in this moment, though, Keyes from his standpoint and what he knows, he truly thinks that Chief's delusional.
We've also seen Keyes like really pissed a little bit more in the first season. So like here you could see he's torn over having to be in this position. You know, actor's selling it really well that he's not just straight up losing it at Chief. He's like, oh my God, why do I have to be dressing you down? Why do I have to be pushing this position that Oni's trying to push?
Yeah. And then Kai, she also, this is, now something that I made note here is like Kai as well as Vanek and Riz, I mean, they already walked out, but like, we got 2 episodes already of like people gaslighting Chief and not believing him and all that kind of stuff. And Silver Team still basically believed him. So, I don't know if this moment is really necessary to have Silver Team as well deny and not believe Chief and start being disgruntled with him and stuff. I mean, I think it's justified for what has happened. I just don't fully think it was like really needed. I feel like we got enough of the gaslighting and denial in the previous 2 episodes that kind of
and in
put
the first
point
season
across that Oni is up to something.
So now we're back on the rubble.
Yeah, now we're back on the rubble, and I'm immediately like, she looks so out of place with her hair. Like, I feel like she should be wearing something a little bit more discreet, or I don't know, like she just screams so like high like, class.
Everyone else is walking around down there in poverty fashion. Her man's is gone. He's not running the scene anymore. Like, she needs to stop walking around all high class and start trying to blend in.
Yeah, I think. And this kind of is going to talk about this whole plot line for this episode here at the Rubble in general, but just like I see what they're doing, but like I just don't think it was written the way to make it the most engaging, because I wasn't all that engaged. I was just like, okay, I'm following it, I'm seeing it, but I'm now sitting there wanting to just go back to the storyline I really care about.
It wasn't necessary.
And that's been a criticism, I think, from even the first episode. I kind of gave it a little bit more faith, but like I just feel like the danger just should be more immediate, because it's just like Soren's crew just playing games with Lyra, and it just kind of just drags. Like, get on with it. Like, tell me the information I want to know so I can care about you guys.
I have a feeling in the back of my mind that a lot of these subplots that we don't really need per se, we're getting for like production reasons. Like, certain actors had contracts that called for a certain amount of screen time or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could see that. Another thought that I had from a production reason, since you brought it up, is the fact that they probably built this set and they were like, we should use it a little bit more to get more bang for our buck, instead of building some other set to tell some other scene. Because I've seen that like in the real world, like working on my own TV show, or it's not my TV show, but the show that I work on, like they'll tweak or change scenes to, or like we'll have like one scene at this one location that we build, and it's like, well, if we add another scene or 2 here and cut this other scene, then we can save money because we can just film it at this thing that we're already going to invest money into. And that's kind of what I see when you look at how large the Rubble is, and like Soren's and Lyra's home here, and like even downtown, like Reach that we get later in this episode that we also got in episode 1. Like, they're definitely building these sets and reusing them so they can get the most out of their use for multiple episodes.
I mean, I can absolutely see them reusing plenty of the Rubble sets as like ship interiors, especially because they could have built the sets to look like that in the first place. Like, okay, we use broken up ships to build the Rubble, and then just redress that set a little bit if we need a Covenant ship interior or what have you. Make it all purple.
Well, I think in a general sense, yes, but I feel like a Covenant ship, I mean, I think I saw on a thing that they actually eventually do go on a Covenant ship, and that's like a whole build up in itself to get that aesthetic.
Oh yeah, for sure.
regardless.
sure.
This also gave me Captain America Winter Soldier vibes.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
elevator. I don't know if you had that.
Why?
Like,
Why?
the moment he stepped in there, I was just like, oh, hey, Cap. Like, he hit the guys, and I was like, yeah, that's a pretty clear homage there.
All right, so now we get Homeboy Blind Spartan Washout, which
Yeah,
I'm already
Lewis.
questioning. Like, come on, man. They got all this technology, all these medical advances, and they can't deal with the blindness.
I mean, I kind of buy that. I mean, because they were
Flash-clone
augmented
eyes.
in some way. Like, I mean, I don't have a gripe with that. I kind of have a gripe with the fact that they've now established that these two characters, Lewis and this healer, are now a couple. Because, like, I don't know. I just thought it was a little odd because Lewis was like, when I found that, maybe I misinterpreted the scene, but I got the sense that, like, the guy cooking, I don't even know his name, is like some sort of like mystic or healer or acupuncture or just some sort of like therapist. And it's like, yeah, this guy helped me with, through my troubles and my mental states and things like that. And I was like, oh, and then now you can help Riz. But then now it's like, oh, well, now they're like boyfriend and boyfriend.
I mean, how many patients end up falling with like their nurse or their doctor or whatever? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. This
dude was at like a rock bottom point in his life, looking for a purpose. Like, I could see it.
I guess I could see it. It just was a little off.
I don't understand why it was
word.
necessary to have.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. I just didn't think it was necessary. But
I get that they already set the precedent for the TV show doing dinner table scenes. So like they're just throwing more of them at us now so they can do a lot more dialogue to set more stuff up. It's an easy thing to do for TV.
That is true. That set's much easier to pull off than, you got to save your money to do your big battles, I guess. So, but I do like, just to wrap up that scene, I do like the point of the scene, which I guess is what matters at the end of the day, which is Riz going to Lewis saying, hey, a few days ago you mentioned that there's more to life than just being a Spartan. And I kind of like her exploring that of herself, to kind of just see where that takes her, especially after what just happened with Chief and the imaginary mission.
It mostly just left me questioning, like, in the core canon, we have most of the Spartan washouts got reassigned in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't quite seem like that's what happened with this dude over here, Lewis, or what his name was.
Yeah, Lewis is the blind Spartan.
I could have sworn they called him something else the first time we saw him.
I remember Lewis and the subtitles say Lewis, so I'm going to say Lewis.
Maybe it was just a weird sound thing then. But yeah, I mean, they couldn't have given him cybernetic eyes or flash cloned eyes or like had him set up doing, listening to audio stuff with his augmented Spartan hearing.
Maybe he didn't want to do that, But that's true. Yeah, in core canon, you had characters that are washouts, like Soren, for example. He had like a desk job for a while.
No, Soren ran off.
Well, he ran off later on because he was, but when he first washed out, he had like a desk job at Oni doing something, and then he was talking to some other character who was fighting for the insurrection and kind of brainwashed him in a way and basically convinced Soren to defect.
They Mickey'd
and then
him.
that's when he escaped and then eventually got away. So, but yeah, to your point, there's probably something he could have done, whether at FleetCom or in the UNSC, to kind of continue being, quote unquote Spartan or just some other type of support character for the UNSC. But instead, he's not. He's kind of doing his own thing. But I mean, he's there, so he might be doing something. Maybe he's just like a
see him in a gym. Maybe he's some sort of physical trainer that helps a lot of the troops at best. But I mean, how much is that really? Like, all I'm saying is I feel like there's more he could have been doing.
But I would argue that since the way he's talking to Riz is that he's very happy with where he is and that he's found that purpose. So yeah, I guess he could be doing more, but for him, this is enough. So, so now we're with Quan and Liara again, and I like this scene because of just purely what is being talked about. Like, I like that she has some guilt that she's dealing with, because this is finally like the first moment this entire season that we really get to know what happened to Quan between the two seasons. I just think this whole scene is just completely out of place. Like, I feel like it should just, like, I feel like they inserted it in there because they needed to.
We could have assumed everything that they said and didn't need them to confirm it. Well, we didn't need them to spend X amount of minutes of screen time to have this little bit of dialogue for us to go, okay, yeah, Quan lost everything. Madrigal got blown up. They already told us Madrigal got glassed. Like,
but it was like, it's just like, I wanted to just know, like, the next thing that she was going to say, because it's like, how did you get here? How are you like an assassin now? Like, it, like, none of the things just are adding up.
I'm still wondering about like the assassin thing. Like, I figured, obviously we know people managed to make it to the rubble on a couple of ships and what have you, and that's how they ended up into the indentured servitude. They set that up a little bit for us, but she apparently has significantly increased her combat skills between the first season and the second season. That's really the only major question I have about it. I pieced it all together.
Well, right, but like, I want to know like what her purpose is in the story now, because it's obviously something that has to deal with the monitors and the secrets of Madrigal, but that's not going to be told to us probably till the end of the season, or like, if ever. It's just, every time I see Quan, it's like, all right, I want to like you, but just the way your story is being told. Same thing with like Liara. Like, I want to like be engaged.
I just had a weird thought. What if they set her up to play the role that Miranda played in the games? Like, she ends up being a little soldier, and then somehow comes through in like one of the later seasons when they would be doing Halo 2 type stuff, Halo 3 type stuff.
Would you want that, or is that just?
No, I'm not saying I would want that. It just hit me as like a possibility of something they could be setting up. With how many things out of left field they've thrown our way, I'm not discounting any possibilities at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be incredibly odd to kind of have Liara start to, I guess, do more with the UNSC.
Not Liara.
Like, I mean, I like this moment where they steal a ship and they're trying to find Soren. Like, I think that's good. I feel like they should have just got away instead of whatever. Like, cause like, what's the difference between this and then how we leave things? Where I guess the only difference is that we don't have Kessler because now he's somewhere else. But like, I just feel like it's just so strange that this whole otherwise completely original story from the Halo universe is just so discombobulated and weak. It's like not leaning on anything.
It's just forced.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel natural.
Yeah, yes, exactly. It doesn't feel natural. That is 100% the thing. It's like, it's all just here for us to watch. And I, since I'm watching it, I want to feel for it. But like, I mean, I get that she wants to find Soren, but like these two characters, like the goons, it's just like, big yawn. Like, it's not personal. Well, yeah, it's personal. Like, and then I don't know. Fucking Quan just kills them all. Like, I don't know.
Okay, but now here we go. We get the answer to our burning question.
Yeah. So this is another mixed bag scene that I have, because on the one hand, I like it because it's telling the audience that Keyes doesn't or didn't know, and now he knows, and he's like disgusted by it, and he questions and he kind of combats Ackerson a little bit. You learn that the officer there that tried to arrest Chief is like complicit and like aware of all the shady shit that Ackerson is doing. But what also gives me questions is like, okay, so some Covenant force had the strength to defeat 4 Spartans, yet the presence of the Covenant is still remaining completely secretive and unaware to the general public. And even those who are aware of it, because the UNSC and ONI are aware of it, they're just all okay with the fact that they just killed 4 Spartans and we're not doing anything about it. That to me was just like what? I don't know.
We know Ackerson's trying to push his own agenda, but at what point do red flags start going off in other points of ONI and the UNSC?
I feel like Visegrad, like this episode, I mean, we'll see what happens either in the next episode or later in the show, but like I'm wondering what would have happened if we introduced the Spartan threes like now, basically, where it's like, okay, the Covenant are on reach, like we need to mobilize, we need to get an attack. Like it doesn't need to be all out construction or destruction like episode 4 is probably going to be. Like you can have small battles, and you can have Keyes and Ackerson, like, okay, these are, basically what Halo Wars 2 and Halo Wars is. It's like there's these tiny little engagements, and we're gonna plan and we're gonna attack here, and then we're gonna mobilize and attack here. It's like that's what I thought this episode was going to be like. And you don't need to show so much of the Covenant. You can keep it to just that opening scene, and then, we just got slaughtered at this, command post Echo. And it's like, okay, well, they got slaughtered there. How do we regroup? And like, I feel like he can introduce the Spartan 3s here and start showing a little bit more like resistance, because I'm on Key's side in this scene where it's like, so what? We're just not going to fight? And he goes, well, we are going to fight, but we're going to lose. And it's like, well, why aren't we fighting now? It's just a weird scene to me that does a little bit, but also doesn't do enough.
They're obviously trying to express the sentiment that we got from the books when they were setting up the Spartan 3s initially, where they were kind of a throwaway suicide bomber type force that was just meant to buy humanity time. But they did a very poor job of explaining it here. Like, we know what they're trying to say because we know the original lore very well, and we get the subtext, but like they just don't do a good job spelling it out for everybody else, or like making it flow smoothly and cohesively.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think I'm trying to think about the showrunners and the writers to see like how they are doing it, and I guess they're just going to explain that all later, whether it's the next episode or not. But I feel like it just would have been stronger. Like, that would have been the perfect scene for Ackerson to just lay out his hand and be like, all right, Keyes, this is what's going on. I need you on my side. I need you in my corner. Like, he asks that. Like, he should play his whole hand to convince him. And it's like, we have these new Spartans. They're gonna help, and we're going to evacuate the city, but we can't do it just yet. We're not ready. Or, we're finalizing the final thing. Or Cortana is doing this last computing. Or you could say whatever it is to kind of justify the delay, but just the kind of withholding information is what this show is doing a lot about, and it's just frustrating because it's like, you want me to care about...
out of us.
Yeah, it's just like you want me to care about X, Y, or Z, and you're trying to do something, but you're like deliberately leaving information out of the viewer to be knowledgeable of, that it just doesn't add up.
There's not enough substance to go with the suspense to prevent fatigue from it all.
Yeah, and I think, and that's my main issue with like the Quan and Rubble storyline, and I'm starting to get like that with Ackerson, because now we've had 3 episodes where we as core canon people know what's happening, and it's like, okay, I have the foundation, I'm ready for the payoff, but they just keep gaslighting and building and building and building, and it's like, you don't need all of that. Or I don't know, maybe because I already know what's going to happen, maybe I am able to piece it together a little bit more clearly than the average viewer. Maybe that's something that I never considered.
I don't think so. I think as core canon fans, we know the big picture that's already painted in the core canon universe, and we can see the same colors and where they're using them here in this. But in the time that they're taking to stretch it out for people who don't get it, they're also not doing a very good job of spelling it out quickly and cohesively and moving on.
Yeah. No, okay, good. So it's not just me. All right, where are we? So we get Parangoski again. This is where we are now. They're eating ramen, and I again started questioning Parangoski because she started saying something like, "You need to listen to Oni, because if you don't listen to Oni, like they'll what did they say?" I wrote it down in my notes here, and I think we already passed the scene. Oh, she says something about when you cease to be useful. And I was just like thinking to myself while watching this, I was like, well, yeah, but like you were sacked, and so now you're a civilian, you cease to be useful. Why didn't Oni kill you or get rid of you? I literally brought this up on the first episode recording. We talked about it. Like, she knows so much. And then we get the then it turns and we get the big reveal that she's actually just, again, duping Chief, and she's still actually working for Oni. And I was just like, okay, all right. So this is also just kind of a nothing scene that just, again, oh yeah, everyone's just out and after Chief. What else is new?
And it means we're gonna either have questions that don't go answered, or they're gonna spend a bunch of time later on that could be spent on Reach Falling Battle stuff to explain how she seemingly got kicked out of Oni and went all undercover just to mess with Chief, or like, is she working for Ackerson or with Ackerson, or does Oni know that Ackerson has something going on, so they're playing their own side game? Like, now there's all sorts of other weird threads dangling.
You know what would be very interesting is the next episode. So like, if we have all of these threads, this might be an analysis question. Let me hold on. I think I'm going to save this, but basically what I'm trying to say is be interesting to see who survives the next episode. But I think I'm going to save that conversation for our analysis episode because it's a lot of speculating, and I think just from a writing point of view, it's a very interesting conversation. So I'm going to save that one. So don't let me forget. But so now we're here back with Ackerson and Halsey. And again, Halsey seems very irritated because she's left, like you said, in this mind prison, and
I don't think she's as annoyed by being in the prison as she is, but why am I dealing with this silly, stupid man? I should be out there doing science. What is this bullshit?
Yeah, exactly.
This isn't going to last long. I'm going to get out of here eventually. Why, oh, why must I tolerate this nonsense?
Yeah. She's like already like, she's no doubt been thinking about her escape, and she's just like, I'm just so ready to get out of here. And I mean, I don't even know what Halsey wants to do. Like, she's on the run. Like, I guess she wants to learn more about the artifacts or try to solve humanity. But it's just, I'm kind of happy that, like, she's supposedly going to get freed because, like, with the fall of Reach happening, something's going to happen. The holodeck's going to break down, and then she's going to have Soren.
They're not going to kill Halsey off with the fall of Reach, plain and simple.
No,
we all
know
it. So it's like, it's just, how is she going to get out of it and go do crazy Halsey shit?
Yeah, she needs to do more Halsey shit. That's true. She needs to. That's exactly what she needs to do.
Halsey just chilling in prison for a while is also like a core part of the Halo canon. Like, so much of it is she's chilling in prison. Just, why am I dealing with this bullshit?
You know,
and
you're right.
She eventually breaks out and goes really and does wild scientist rebel shit, and then back sitting in prison again. So they nailed it. They give the writers credit for that.
This is the most accurate part of this season so far, is keeping Halsey in prison. That's funny. That said, I do like this conversation. So this is where we learned that Julia was selected to be part of the Spartan 2 program, was flash cloned, kidnapped, and then I guess she died. To Ackerson, Ackerson knew that she died just like the other Flash clones did. But I take it that Ackerson already knows what Halsey is telling him. She's more so just telling it for the audience. But Julia doesn't survive the augmentation process and just dies, just kind of blanketly.
I think she knows he knows. But what's more important is the way that he just very, very not so subtly teased to her and sort of the audience, the Spartan 3s, if that is the way we're gonna go, because he was talking to her about, you are part of something much bigger than yourself. Your Spartans are part of something much bigger. The Spartan 2s lead to the Spartan 3s. And he made it this very pointed comment that he finished off with because he thought it was going to be this really nasty fucking sting. So she turns around and does her little explanation of his sister to him, but she mirrors the exact same thing that he told her and throws it right back in his face, except makes it much more personal about his sister. And it was her little super smart Halsey conversation fuck you moment.
Yeah, no, it was, that was great. And that was, you nailed it on the head.
And then we get the reveal.
The reveal. So, which is, we kind of also talking about Kurt, on how Kurt was kind of like abducted and then sent to kind of train Spartan 3s, to where in the Silver timeline here, Ackerson has now basically captured Soren, abducted him, and then put him with Halsey. Now, I'm interested in to think about what Ackerson's overall plan was. Like, did he just assume that the two of them would just be in the holodeck and then eventually just die when the Fall of Reach happens? Or does he still have some grand purpose or grand plan for them?
I think he either could be trying to do the Kurt setup. He's got two major pieces of the Spartan program here. A Spartan 2 that knows his shit, that's not currently assigned or on record, so to speak, already listed as MIA. He's got Halsey that created the Spartan 2s and her mind available, so to speak. So he could go that route, or he could just be, doing the TV drama of let's just stick them together and see if they kill each other. Or he could just be leaving them behind to die when Reach falls. But I think he's going to go on ahead and see if he can't set up to use them both. TV Ackerson seems like he thinks he's smarter than Halsey.
Yeah. Okay. So this scene is silly, but... So we come back to a conversation that Soren and Liara had in episode 1, where she was talking to Soren about like treating his crew better and like what he did with the magical money. And Soren himself says that like it really wasn't that much. It was just like a box of deuterium money, and it really didn't go that far. And she was like, well, your people don't know that. And he's like, well, so what if they do? And so now this scene is all about...
This is the so what?
Yeah. And he wants him to hand over the money. And like this guy is like trying to boss his crew around because he's now the new captain.
You hang out with a bunch of thugs and start bragging about how much money you hauled in that you didn't share with the homies. And then thugs are going to turn around and try and get it from you, not knowing that you're lying little shit and don't actually have the loot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this whole, like, I'm not even clear, like, their total end game. Like, did they sell Soren out to someone, or were they, like, put at gunpoint, like, to sell him out? Or, like, I'm just so confused as to their overall desires, because from what I'm able to follow, it's just boiling down to magical money. And it's like, really?
It is. There's
You're doing all this just for that?
Yeah, of all the stupid subplots that they're throwing at us, these particular characters are that two-dimensional. They just want the money. Where's the money, Lebowskis?
Where's the money? Yeah, it's just so disappointing. And like,
where's the money, Lebowski? I don't have the money. They got the wrong Lebowski.
It's also like, okay, if the money's on the rubble, like, they're in space. Like, do they have to turn around and go back to the rubble to go get it? Like, if it even existed over there?
Are they even in space? I don't know. They're just on the ship right now. Like, last we saw, the ship didn't even take off. So like, they might just still be chilling off of the dock or just right outside the rubble. They might not have gone anywhere.
Yeah. Also, when that cut just happened, I thought like Liara she like vomited up blood. Like, I straight up thought she died. And then like they cut, and then it's like, oh, it's Quan. I was like, oh, Quan just killed that guy. Oh, is Quan just an assassin now? Like, it like cuts to the carnage that she's done, and it's like, I don't know anymore. I was like defending her and giving her like the benefit of the doubt that like we're going to learn what's going on, but 3 episodes in, the writers still don't know how to write Quan.
Unless she just spent her entire time on Madrigal before it got glass, just training and murdering people and getting better at being a killer.
The woman tries to sneak up on him and Quan just turns around and stabs her. Like,
well, that one I got because we didn't see anything happen to that one, and Quan's not saying anything. She's just still doing the tapping thing that she used to bait everybody else.
I don't know. I hope now that, like, and I'll talk about more of this on the analysis, but now that it's Quan and Liara, like, there, we can finally get some, like, exposition and then some purpose with, like, what is going on. But also, part of me doesn't want them in the next episode because I don't want to take screen time away from the Fall of Reach. Because it sounds like they're going to just, or looks like anyway, that they may cram the entire events in that one episode, which I was kind of not hoping for.
And then we just get Chief talking to Nona for a minute.
Yeah. So here's the kind of bookended scene from the beginning with Ackerson and his dad. That the time has come, which is a very
Ackerson and Ackerdad.
Yeah. Ackerdad.
It's okay. I'll sign off now. Bye.
That's great. Oh man, I wish I could like rename the episode to that or something. I might have to weasel that in somewhere. Ackerson and Ackerdad. And then we get Ackerdaughter coming in too.
Okay, but here, I think we gotta pay attention to this because it's the thing we talked about we weren't supposed to talk about. Don't let them take me alive.
And today's the day. When he drops the pill, I like that actually like.
Oh my god, it was so
it hit
good.
me. That was good. Just like.
It was, you know what, Ackerson? You've been such a dick for these last 2 episodes. Fucking do it yourself.
Yeah, kill your father yourself. I was like, ugh.
It's like, all right, as much as, all right, we had to deal with that subplot, great, but the payoff was worth it for that little bit there.
Yeah. No, this scene and the other scene are, I think, highlights to the episode. I mean, this episode really feels like kind of like an Ackerson episode in a way. We get a lot of screen time with him, and he talks with Keyes, he talks with Kai, that we actually talked completely over, now that I think about it. But
well, I think this is an important part now, because I think now that he's actually had to do the thing, he's done with his personal aspersions. He, like, whatever motives he had, those are going to go out the window. It's all just going to be, we have to fucking take down the Covenant at whatever it takes.
Well, now, I mean, he's effectively
that.
leaving behind his entire personal life in this moment. You know, he packs up all of his things. In a moment, we're going to see him get on a ship. He said goodbye to his dad. His sister is already gone. His mother is already gone. His home is going to get destroyed. Like, he is literally putting everything behind him, to where going forward, it's just going to be, like you said, just 100% we have to stop the Covenant, which I think, you know, could be interesting how they continue to play that.
They're wiping the slate clean of stuff we didn't care about after spending so much more time expanding on the stuff we didn't care about, trying to make us care about it so that way it would be stakes when they wipe the slate clean.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a shame, because, like, some of the stuff, like, we didn't need to care about. You know, like... So this is our last scene. We have Chief at church with Perez. And my issue with this scene is that she is about to tell Chief that she discovered something and translated a message from Sanctuary, but like doesn't tell anybody. And unless Chief, or it's not until Chief goes looking for her does she actually say something. So if Chief didn't even come here, she would have just been bombed when the freaking church gets blown up.
You know, TV, writing, convenience.
Like, why? I don't know.
She was probably still trying to just come to terms with it and like confirm her suspicions in translations.
Maybe she just already gave up hope. Maybe she just was like, "Oh, I figured this out too late. I know I'm gonna die. I'm just gonna go to church and pray." And
last time we saw her, she was listening to it, so she probably just figured it out. And she's like, "Oh my god!" And she's like, "I'm going to church and praying before I do anything else."
Yeah, maybe I'm just not an overly.
She probably also
person.
can't track him down. You know what I mean?
Well, go to FleetCom. Go to.
Just asking for a Spartan who's in questionable state and on punishment right now, who just escaped his security guards.
Well, here's the city life. This is everything that's gonna get destroyed.
I just think of Terminator when they do her having the dream next to the playground, watching the people playing.
Vanek just getting
what's
a
in the
sandwich out of
pouch?
his locker.
Yeah. Is it a sandwich? Is that what you think it is? Is that going to be our poll for the community this week? What do we think?
I don't know.
What's in Vanek's bag?
It's something that was wrapped up. Maybe it's like a rag, but it literally looked like a made sack lunch.
Could have been some sort of personal belonging or something. Maybe he's thinking about his life now that he can think about his life.
No, we could talk about the poll in the next episode. I got some ideas.
And then they call him out.
So here's Ackerson leaving the planet. And then we get the name of the Sanghili as well. It's not Thel Videm.
Which is good in a way.
Yeah, it's fine. It doesn't need to be Thel. Like, just make him a menacing elite and we'll just fight him and...
It would ruin things if it made it Thel.
Yeah, 100%.
Goosebumps.
Massive explosion. And cut.
That's the moment that came an entire episode later than it should have.
Yeah.
We should have got the Visegrad moment, yes, and then the next moment we got should have been the shit hitting the fan. But okay,
well, it's
fine.
like
we have it now.
So like I was talking with Aaron on a previous episode before, like during our like preseason talk, and we were going through the episode titles, and we were talking about Reach, and I was like, oh well, Reach is obviously going to be the episode where the fall of Reach happens. But then Aaron was like, well, I think it'd be better if the fall of Reach happens over multiple episodes, much like how the game Fall of Reach happened over multiple missions. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so he was like, well, Sword Base can be like their response to First Contact, and then Visegrad can be the attempt to take down the Visegrad relay, and then the Covenant have to face it, and then Reach is like the actual fall. And I was like, oh wow, that's great. That way the conflict stretched over 3 days. We can have tension, we can have like loss and small victories and defeat. But like from what we've just seen with these first 3 episodes, it's like, okay, I guess the Reach is going to be just one episode, because I don't know what episode 5 is going to be about. Ilaria. I don't even know what that's going to be.
Well, I think, episode 4 will get now is the shit hitting the fan on Reach, but that doesn't mean it's going to be over as quick as it starts. We could still have Reach falling for the entirety of the rest of the season, sans like the second half of the last episode. We could have Reach falling and then keep cutting away to see all the other stuff that's going on. We could have the initial wave of Covenant hitting civilian parts, going into the next episode, and then cut away for the second half of that episode to see what's going on with Ackerson.
I hope that that's the case. I hope that we don't get just a one-off episode of The Fall of Reach. I hope it gets dragged out. I hope we get to see like an ongoing conflict.
And then what episode number was Onyx again?
Onyx, I think, is 6.
Onyx is 6. Okay.
Because then Thermopylae is 7, and then Halo.
So we'll start getting the Fall next week, and then maybe we see where Ackerson's going a little bit in the episode after that, and going into 6, we actually get all of that while there's still waves of conflict happening on Reach. Like, I could see them jumping back and forth for the next couple episodes to really stretch out the Fall of Reach, and then the characters we care about that aren't getting wiped out don't make it off until that last episode.
That would be great. I think, for lack of a better comparison, if they're basically able to pepper in a few Halo Reach missions into the next few episodes instead of cramming it all in the next one, I'm all for that.
I mean, at this point, I'm not quite expecting a parallel to the game missions, but I think they could sprinkle in a lot of book stuff
from a general sense. Like, they if they're able to pepper in, the moments that makes the Fall of Reach the Fall of Reach, if they pepper it in over multiple episodes, like you said, is what I would like. Instead of them doing the silver timeline version of the Fall of Reach in just one, episode.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to give us a quick flash in the pan like that. Because think of it like this. What do we suspect is going to happen if we get the Fall of Reach in one episode and then still have half plus of the season left to go to kill before they get to just seeing a Halo at the end of the season? I mean, if we do get the Spartan 3s, what are we going to get shown the Spartan 3s after Reach already falls, and then they're going to replay the Fall of Reach while we see what happened to the Spartan 3s after we know Reach already fell from a couple episodes ago? I just don't think it's going to happen like that. I think they're going to have to stretch it out and jump back and forth, sprinkle in the 3s, and then in those last couple of Reach fight scenes is when we get the 3s and see them get wiped out.
I mean, the 7th episode is Thermopylae, which sounds like a great final.
That was the stand of the 300 Spartans.
Yeah, so that could that could be a great way to kind of conclude the Fall of Reach sort of moment, and then the next episode being Halo, it could then kind of start bringing us into what's coming next and stuff like that. So.
What was the operation that took out one entire class of Spartan 3s that it was just Tom and Lucy that came out of? Do you remember the name of the operation?
It was like, oh man, I don't remember it. But yeah, they were like targeting like a fueling supply station or something. It was like...
I think that's what's going to happen is we're going to get the Spartan 3s introduced real fast, and then we're going to get the equivalent of that operation where they just get introduced into the Fall of Reach and taken out that way just as quick, just to show that much more devastation on Reach.
It's Operation Torpedo. Operation Torpedo was a UNSC operation to eliminate a Covenant refinery on the inhabited moon Pegasi Delta. The engagement took place on July 3rd. The outcome was a UNSC victory, but at great loss. All participating Spartan 3s, with the exception of Tom and Lucy, were killed. However, all Covenant forces were grounded, as well as Covenant ships were eliminated.
Yeah, I think we get that. We get the introduction to Spartan 3s. We get that, but on Reach. And then we get the moment where we think that did the trick, and no, that wasn't enough. There's a whole giant Covenant armada behind that, and that's what's going to actually finish off Reach.
Yeah. All right, well, let's continue this conversation on the analysis episode, and also talk about some of the other scenes that took place in this episode, and talk about maybe some character moments and things. We still have yet to see Miranda Keyes. I'm every time I watch the episodes, I'm just like, yep, no Miranda. I'm curious what she's doing. And no Cortana this episode. We got just a glimpse of her last episode, but she technically did not return this episode. So I have some theories about that and want to discuss those with you on the analysis episode. Before we wrap up, what were your overall opinions of Visegrad? Was it, quote unquote, bad episode? Was it just not great? Was it filler? What are your kind of general thoughts about it?
I think it was necessary filler, not done as well as it could have been, but we got through it and we got to the important part of the story that we've really been waiting for now. It was, like I said, a little slower than we should have gotten there, I think, but it's not the end of the world. It could have been worse. It's not like season 1 all over again. So I'm happy with it. I'm content. I can accept this if I know there's going to be some real bangers coming behind it. And it looks like we're going to at least get some of that.
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, the setup for the next episode is going to be huge. So I hope it has the right payoff, and I have a feeling it will, because the action sequences are usually all really good for the Halo show. I agree that there is some necessary filler in this episode, but I just am disappointed that with a pretty good first episode and a pretty decent second episode that it was going to be able to kind of continue writing those coattails, and I feel like we've just been dipping like one step so far as each episode kind of continues on. And so I really hope that we not only get the action that we want, because like you said, not every episode can have the action, and it is a character drama at the end of the day, but I just think that there are some characterizations that just still need to be worked on, like Liara and Quan, and I hope Soren, we get some good things with him next episode. Like, I'm not discounting anything since he's only been really in one episode, but I want him to be more relevant. I want to see what's up with Miranda, and I like what we're seeing with the Spartans. So it's the potential is still there. I'm not completely lost, but I was a bit disappointed.
They didn't get away from the point, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Steve, let's wrap things up, and then we'll get to our analysis episode. And listeners, you can listen to the analysis episode tomorrow if you're listening to this on the day that it drops. Thank you for joining me, Steve.
Absolutely.
Halo the series premieres exclusively on Paramount Plus every Thursday for the next 6 weeks or 5 weeks now. If you're interested, Paramount Plus also produces a Halo After the Show segment called Halo the Series Declassified that releases with each TV episode. This week for Visegrad, Sydney interviews Natasha McElholm as well as Joseph Morgan. They play Halsey and Ackerson respectively. There's also conversation about the set design that went into creating the kind of area that Chief and Ferengoski met in kind of that like downtown underbelly of Reach, so to speak. And so they kind of talk about the set design into that, some pretty interesting things, as well as a very, very tiny sneak peek for the next episode. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, you can find every episode to all the other shows that Evolved produces on our website, evolvedhalo.com. Don't forget to check us out on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and more. Again, another special shout out to all of our patrons for supporting Evolved and making all of our shows possible. Head over to patreon.com/HaloEvolved to learn more. If you like this show, please rate it or leave a review. We greatly appreciate all the feedback we get from the show to improve the quality of it for our listeners. And lastly, if you want to email us or leave us a voicemail to discuss this episode or a previous episode about the TV show, you can email us at podcastevolved@gmail.com or call us on our Google phone, which is 205-EVOLVED, which is 205-386-5833. And with that, I've been your host, Oran, and until next time, evolve!